Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Rick's English channel. Today's deep dive is exactly what you clicked on.
We're going to show you how to explain, incredibly complex ideas clearly in English.
Right, and sound far more articulate doing it. Because I think a lot of you watching probably assume the answer is just, well, endlessly memorizing more obscure high-level vocabulary.
Oh, absolutely. But here's the surprising truth we really need to establish right out of the gate. That is not the answer at all. What you actually need is a highly specific structural method coupled with one particular type of phrase.
Just one type.
Yeah, one type of phrase that instantly forces you to sound calm, methodical, and completely coherent. And we aren't going to just hand you a random list of phrases right now.
No, of course not. We are going to construct this architectural method for you, layer by meticulous layer.
Exactly. And we'll demonstrate exactly how its execution works in a realistic conversation.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll possess a concrete strategy for introducing an idea, substantiating your reasoning, clarifying those inherently confusing points,
And injecting nuance, which is huge.
injecting nuance, and confidently concluding your thoughts without just abruptly running out of words. Today, we are pulling our core insights from a really comprehensive source document called Slow English Practice.
And our overarching mission here is to systematically dismantle that pervasive anxiety you feel when speaking in a second language.
We want to replace it with a foolproof, structural framework for your thoughts.
Right. But to do that, we first have to investigate the root cause of the problem, right? Before we can build a better, more sophisticated way of speaking, we really need to understand the underlying neurology.
The neurology of why our ideas so frequently seem to just, completely disintegrate the precise moment we open our mouths.
It's maddening.
It is maddening, isn't it? You have this crystal clear, profoundly sophisticated concept constructed in your native language.
Oh, I hear this all the time from learners.
Right. But the moment you attempt to translate it into spoken English, everything just descends into absolute chaos.
Yeah, it essentially feels like you are trying to ride a unicycle while simultaneously juggling flaming torches.
That is the perfect analogy. Flaming torches. You are frantically translating grammar, frantically searching the archives of your brain for vocabulary.
You are monitoring your pronunciation.
Exactly, and scrutinizing the listener's facial expressions just to see if they actually understand you.
That was kind of too much.
It is too much. And that juggling act is an incredibly accurate, visceral depiction of what neuroscientists and linguists refer to as cognitive load.
Cognitive load, let's dig into that.
Yeah, so we are talking about the sheer volume of intricate information your brain's working memory is desperately attempting to process in one finite moment.
Which is a lot when it's a second language.
Oh, absolutely. When you speak a second language, your prefrontal cortex is already operating at maximum capacity. And when that mental burden becomes intolerably heavy, your brain essentially triggers a physiological stress response.
Your cortisol levels spike. Cortisol spikes, yeah. And language learners typically fall into one of two really detrimental traps as a result of that overload.
I know exactly what those traps are because, well, I have fallen into them 1,000 times myself.
We all have.
The first is the panic-induced rush. You are so utterly terrified of an awkward moment of dead silence that you just start speaking frantically.
Hoping the sheer velocity of your words will somehow camouflage the disorganized chaos of your thoughts.
Precisely. You just rush to fill the void.
And the second trap is the freeze response.
Oh, the freeze is the worst.
It is. You stop every 3 or 4 words, trapped in a paralyzing state of perfectionism, desperately attempting to formulate the single, flawless sentence.
Which doesn't exist.
Right. The fundamental problem here is that if your underlying ideas are completely disorganized from the start, speaking faster merely accelerates the conversational train wreck.
It just makes the mess happen quicker.
Exactly. Speed is an illusion. It emphatically does not equate to fluency.
So how do we physically stop that cortisol spike? Like, how do we prevent the unicycle from toppling over the middle of a sentence?
Well, the source provides a remarkably counterintuitive remedy for this. You have to proactively grant yourself permission to speak deliberately.
Deliberately.
Yes, I am not suggesting you speak at a painfully sluggish, robotic pace.
Right, nobody wants to listen to that.
No, but rather with intentional, measured purpose. When you consciously slow your cadence, you are essentially buying your brain crucial milliseconds to fetch the correct vocabulary and logically assemble the syntax.
You assert total control over the pacing, rather than allowing your physiological nervousness to dictate the rhythm.
Precisely. And the source illustrates this mechanism beautifully by contrasting a rushed, panicked explanation of working from home with a deliberate one.
Oh, I loved this part. The rushed version sounds like one breathless, run-on sentence.
Yeah.
Like, working from home is good because people don't commute and they have more time and maybe they're more productive, but sometimes they're lonely.
Yeah, you just throw all the unorganized ideas at the listener and frantically hope they can sort them out.
Which they usually can't.
Right. Contrast that with deliberate pacing, where you articulate your thoughts in complete, digestible units of meaning.
Okay, give us an example of how that sounds.
You might say, working from home can be beneficial for several fundamental reasons. First, employees no longer have to spend hours commuting.
And then you pause.
Then you
Oh.
simply pause. You let that concept land. The crucial distinction in that example wasn't an upgrade in vocabulary.
Use the same basic vocabulary.
Exactly. It was the architectural organization of the ideas and the speaker's sheer willingness to utilize natural pauses.
Okay, so deliberate pacing is the vehicle that keeps you calm. It actively buys you processing time. But wait, if I am intentionally slowing down, I still have to deliver the actual answer without rambling indefinitely?
Yes, you do.
The source talks about providing the listener with a map up front. But, and this is but for a lot of learners, if I literally start an answer by announcing, I have 3 distinct points to make, aren't I going to sound incredibly rigid?
It feels rehearsed, right?
Yeah, it feels a bit like a politician delivering a heavily rehearsed, stiff speech.
Yeah.
Or what if I forget my points halfway through?
I completely understand why it feels that way to a learner, but the psychological reality of communication suggests the exact opposite is true.
Oh, really?
Yeah, providing a conversational map drastically minimizes the cognitive expenditure for everyone involved, especially your listener.
Okay, how so?
Well, when you introduce a complex topic by stating, there are 3 primary aspects we need to evaluate, the listener's brain instantly relaxes.
Because they know what's coming.
Exactly. They stop subconsciously wondering if you're going to ramble for 10 minutes because you have established clear, predictable parameters.
That makes perfect sense. You are essentially managing their expectations right from the start, which makes them much more receptive to what you are actually saying.
Exactly. Furthermore, providing a map acts as an indispensable safety net for you, the speaker.
Right, because of that fear of forgetting.
Yeah, if you experience that terrifying, inevitable moment where you lose your train of thought, which, by the way, happens to native speakers on a daily basis, you aren't left floundering in the dark.
You can safely return to your map.
You just anchor yourself back to the original premise.
The phrase from the text that perfectly encapsulates this strategy is, let me break that down. I really appreciate how incredibly versatile that expression is in everyday English.
It is exceptionally versatile. To break something down implies that you are taking a dense, unwieldy subject and systematically dismantling it into manageable, intellectually digestible fragments.
So if a colleague asks you a massive convoluted question like, why it is so exceedingly difficult to maintain healthy daily habits, you don't just dive in and start randomly listing your personal struggles.
Right, that's the panic response.
Instead, you give them the map. You pause and say, that is an incredibly broad question, so let me break it down into 3 specific areas: motivation, environment, and consistency.
And boom. Before you have offered a single detailed explanation, you have instantly positioned yourself as a highly articulate, organized thinker.
And you have effectively organized your own thoughts in the process.
Exactly. But once the listener has that map, we need to construct the actual roads they're going to travel on.
Right, because having a map is useless if the roads are full of potholes.
This is where we transition into building the explanation in progressive, interconnected layers.
I was reading through the section on how to stack these ideas, and the source identifies 4 essential layers to any comprehensive explanation: the main point, the reason, the example, and the significance.
That final layer is so important.
The significance, yeah, it really fascinated me because it is so frequently ignored by learners. It essentially functions like a camera lens.
The camera lens is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. Let's explore that.
Well, you start with the main point. You establish a logical reason, and then you zoom the camera lens all the way in to provide a highly specific, granular example.
Right, getting into the details.
But you absolutely cannot leave the listener stuck in the minutia of that example. You must inevitably zoom the lens back out to reveal the entire landscape using a phrase like, in other words.
Yes. Advanced communication is rarely about stringing together the most polysyllabic words you can find. It is about guaranteeing that your precise meaning is undeniably clear in the broader context.
And to achieve that undeniable clarity, this is the precise moment we need to integrate those secret phrases we alluded to at the very beginning of our deep dive.
Finally revealing the secret.
Yes, the linguistic tools that establish this seamless cohesion are known as signposting phrases.
Signposting. They operate exactly like directional road signs on a complex highway system. They explicitly demonstrate to the listener the logical relationship between your various disparate ideas.
Let's actually walk through these 4 layers, actively incorporating those signposts using a practical scenario from the text. The concept of learning through mistakes.
I think that is an excellent application. First, we establish the main point. Making mistakes is an absolutely essential component of language acquisition.
Okay, clear point.
Then, we immediately follow with the reason, which explains the why. This is primarily because mistakes illuminate the exact gap between what you intend to say and what you are currently capable of expressing.
Yeah, we zoom the camera lens in for the specific example to ground that abstract concept in reality. For instance, if you persistently use the incorrect preposition in a specific context, that recurring error highlights exactly which grammatical rule you need to review.
And finally, we zoom out to establish the significance, utilizing a crucial signposting phrase to signal the conclusion. In other words, a mistake is not merely a failure, it is a vital form of diagnostic feedback.
Wow. It is profoundly satisfying to listen to an answer constructed with that level of architectural integrity.
It really is.
Those signposting phrases truly act as the structural glue holding the entire thought process together. And the text provides an array of these.
It does. If you want to gracefully append an additional point without abruptly changing the subject, you simply deploy a signpost like, "Another factor worth considering is."
Oh, that's smooth.
Or, if you need to introduce a contrasting viewpoint without sounding unnecessarily argumentative or abrasive, you might utilize, "That being said."
That being said, yeah, I use that all the time.
And when you are prepared to elucidate a broader consequence, you can deploy a transitional phrase like, "The broader implication of this is."
When you intentionally weave these signposts into your speech, your delivery becomes remarkably cohesive.
And cohesive simply means that all these independent linguistic fragments interlock elegantly to form a unified, impenetrable argument.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. That structural cohesion sounds fantastic in theory.
I sense a but coming.
A meticulously structured, flawlessly signposted response is brilliant for a sterilized, predictable textbook environment. But let's be honest, real-world conversations are infinitely messy.
Oh, they are entirely unpredictable.
They are steeped in gray areas, people interject, they ask multifaceted questions, and they routinely challenge your fundamental premises. How do we navigate that inherent chaotic complexity?
This is exactly where we elevate your English proficiency from solidly intermediate to genuinely advanced. We must master the delicate art of nuance.
Nuance.
Yeah, nuance refers to the subtle, almost imperceptible differences in meaning, attitude, or interpretation.
Right.
Instead of delivering a rigidly simplistic, absolute declaration like, "Yes, modern technology makes humanity entirely less social," truly advanced speakers instinctively acknowledge the inherent complexity of the world.
They don't just deal in absolutes.
Exactly. They deploy qualifying phrases like, "To some extent that is true, but," or "It would be a massive oversimplification to state that."
Okay, acknowledging nuance and avoiding absolute black and white statements makes perfect sense. But I want to pivot back to that terrifying scenario we discussed earlier concerning cognitive load.
The unicycle.
Yes, the unicycle.
Huh.
What happens when genuine panic sets in? Your cortisol spikes and your mind just goes completely, utterly blank in the middle of a sentence.
It's the learner's worst nightmare.
I know countless learners who are paralyzed by the prospect of dead silence because they feel it immediately exposes their lack of vocabulary to the native speaker.
I want you to fundamentally internalize this core revelation from our source text because it changes everything.
Okay, let's hear.
Fluency is unequivocally not the ability to speak perpetually without ever hesitating.
Wow, wait, really?
That is a destructive, unattainable myth. True fluency is simply the ability to skillfully manage hesitation without abandoning the conversation.
That is a staggering paradigm shift. You're essentially saying you don't have to be perfectly seamlessly smooth.
You just need to know how to navigate the inevitable potholes without completely wrecking the car.
Exactly. You are allowed to hit a pothole.
You are. And you navigate those conversational potholes by utilizing specific recovery phrases. If your mind goes totally blank, You do not panic, and you certainly do not profusely apologize for your English skills.
Which we all do. Oh, sorry, my English is bad.
Stop doing that. You simply deploy a phrase like, let me think about how to best articulate this, or I seem to have briefly lost my train of thought. Give me 1 second.
It's so much more commanding. Let's look at how the source intertwines this concept of nuance and these vital recovery tactics in a really extensive dialogue about smartphone usage.
That was a great section.
The underlying question posed is whether smartphones are fundamentally destroying our capacity to concentrate. Now, a less sophisticated speaker might bluntly assert, yes, they completely destroy our focus.
Very black and white.
But by consciously applying nuance, you soften the assertion. You might say, I wouldn't go so far as to claim they are entirely destroying it. That would be an oversimplification. However, the constant barrage of frequent interruptions certainly makes sustained concentration significantly more arduous.
Notice the profound psychological effect of the phrase, I wouldn't go so far as to say. It allows you to partially disagree with a provocative statement without sounding the least bit aggressive or defensive.
It's diplomatic.
Extremely diplomatic. You are tactfully accepting a fragment of the premise without subscribing to the most extreme, catastrophic conclusion. It instantly makes you sound profoundly thoughtful, objective, and analytically balanced.
And if you happen to stumble while attempting to articulate that sophisticated point, you simply insert a recovery phrase, recalibrate your thoughts, and proceed with absolute confidence.
Exactly. You stay in the driver's seat.
So, we have comprehensively analyzed the underlying neurological theory of cognitive load, the architectural structure of an answer, the immense importance of signposting, the necessity of nuance, and the emergency recovery tactics.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. Now, it is time to transition from theoretical concepts to practical application. We want to provide you with a highly concrete framework that you can immediately begin practicing the very minute this deep dive concludes.
And the source text outlines an incredibly brilliant, elegantly simple methodology for this known as the PREP framework. That is an acronym, PREP.
What does it stand for?
It stands for point, reason, example, and perspective.
I absolutely love how actionable this is. Let's demonstrate exactly how this framework operates in real time with a genuinely challenging philosophical question extracted directly from the text. Is failure absolutely necessary for achieving success?
Okay, utilizing the PP framework, I would initiate my response with my point. I fundamentally believe that experiencing failure is often an indispensable component of long-term success.
Okay, there's your P.
I follow that immediately with my reason. This is primarily because failure inevitably exposes critical weaknesses that may otherwise remain entirely invisible when circumstances are progressing smoothly.
Excellent. Now the example.
Next, I transition to my example. For instance, delivering a highly unsuccessful, poorly received presentation may abruptly reveal that while your foundational ideas were exceptionally strong, your structural organization was confusing and unclear.
And finally, you zoom out for perspective.
Right. Of course, simply failing does not automatically guarantee improvement. The ultimate determining factor is whether we deliberately reflect on the negative experience and systematically adjust our subsequent approach.
I mean, that right there is an absolute masterclass in concise, highly articulate expression. It takes perhaps 60 seconds to deliver that complete, complex thought, but it does not feel superficial in the slightest.
And it certainly does not feel frantic.
Not at all. Now, if you want to implement this successfully, here are the exact parameters for practicing this material so you don't accidentally induce a state of cognitive overload.
Please listen to this part.
Whatever you do, please do not attempt to memorize 20 new expressions today. That will inevitably backfire.
It absolutely will.
Select just 3 manageable signposting or recovery phrases. Then, activate the Voice Memo app on your phone and record yourself answering a complex question utilizing the PREP framework.
And this subsequent step is absolutely critical to your development. When you play that recording back to evaluate your performance, do not relentlessly criticize your accent or fixate on minor grammatical discrepancies.
We are so hard on ourselves with that.
We really are, but those are entirely the wrong metrics for success. You must ask yourself purely analytical questions. Was my primary point undeniably clear? Did I provide a concrete, illustrative example?
Clarity must supersede speed in every single instance.
Once your thoughts are architecturally sound, your speaking velocity will naturally, organically increase without ever sacrificing your coherence.
Clarity over speed, always. That has to be the fundamental operating principle for any advanced learner.
I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative philosophical thought. inspired by our deep dive into the source material today.
I love a provocative thought. Let's hear it.
Well, we noted earlier that in the realm of language acquisition, a grammatical or structural mistake is not merely a catastrophic failure, it is a vital, indispensable form of diagnostic feedback.
Right. The gap between what you want to say and what you can say.
Exactly. What if we proactively apply that exact same philosophy to our comprehensive journey toward conversational fluency?
How do you mean?
What if every single awkward pause, every time you desperately search for a word, and every occasion you lose your train of thought this week isn't a glaring sign that you are inherently a bad English speaker?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
What if, instead, it is the exact necessary neurological feedback your brain desperately requires to construct a superior, vastly more reliable conversational map for tomorrow?
That perspective completely transforms the entire experience of struggling through a complex sentence.
It really does. It reframes it entirely.
It beautifully reframes anxiety into a genuine opportunity for growth. Well, if you found this slow English practice deep dive helpful, continue your journey with another video right here on Rick's English channel.
Each video is meticulously designed to help you deconstruct natural English and express yourself with significantly greater confidence.
And if you want to critically analyze and practice advanced communication strategies with us every single week, make sure to subscribe to Rick's English channel and turn on those notifications so you never miss a lesson.
We'd love to have you join us.
Before you go, head down to the comments section and boldly answer this exact question, utilizing the PRP framework we just taught you. Has technology fundamentally made human communication better?
Oh, that's a great question.
It is. We would absolutely love to read your point, your reason, your example, and your perspective in the comments. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us today.
Keep analyzing, keep thinking critically, and keep confidently expressing yourself in English.
See you in the next video.